Welcome to Body Kindness. I'm Rebecca Scritchfield, creator of the Body Kindness Philosophy book and audiobook. I'm here to help you create a better life by reinventing health from the body oppressive, shaming, and you'll never be enough type of mindset to positive and joyful ways that you can spiral up your energy, mood, and your well-being at any size, shape, or weight, and as you are right now. Get started for free at bodykindnessbook.com/start. That's the sound of me smashing a stack of scales in front of some friends. And I have to say that breaking up with the scale and all the other ways I was judging, monitoring, and measuring my worth was absolutely pivotal in my life. Creating the body kindness philosophy and letting myself be a human being again helped me become a better mom, a better clinician, and a happier and healthier person. I believe we all have a right to decide how we want to care for ourselves, and I think we all need support in figuring out what that looks like. You don't have to do this alone. There's a whole community of like-minded people who are fed up with diets, who are embracing intuitive eating, and who are completely redefining their lives from body shame to body kindness. You are not broken. Our culture is. Find your inner caregiver and create a better life with body kindness.
So, all over the world, fertility treatments are being cancelled. Any kind of fertility support, whether that's IVF and IUI, whether that's just taking medications to support fertility, they're putting everything on hold. I know that in some places they're still going on with it. So I think in some US states, I know of some people who are still getting treatment, but it's very much like everything is closing down and everything is stopping. And for a lot of people, they have had their cycles cancelled like mid-cycle. So they have already been paying a lot of money for these cycles, for the drugs, for scans, for, all the prep work that goes into going into a fertility treatment. And basically they've lost that money or that time. And for people who have been in this journey the long haul, which is the majority of people who are in the kind of fertility treatment area now, every month matters, every day matters. They have been waiting for this for their whole lives.
That was Nicola Salmon. She is known on Instagram as @Fat Positive Fertility. She's a fat positive fertility coach, also trained as an acupuncturist and naturopath. She supports people who want to get pregnant without shame and the need for weight loss. She advocates for change in how these people are supported with other healthcare practitioners. And she's the author of a self-published book, Fat and Fertile. She was diagnosed with PCOS when she was 16 years old and was told she would not be able to have children. She spent her whole life yo-yo dieting and trying to change her body and still feeling so unhappy with her body. And now she does fertility coaching, and we share clients. And Nicola is in my Body Kindness Mentor program right now. I asked her if she would please come on the show and talk with me. Once I was learning about how disrupted her clients' lives were with COVID-19. And I thought, I bet you that there's a lot of people whose surgeries are being canceled, knee replacements, hip replacements, gosh, whatever the list of surgeries or procedures I can imagine. And while we spent almost all the conversation focused on fertility procedures, I think that, regardless of who you are, we all know that we have heightened stress, anxiety, and worry as we're going through this global pandemic. And day to day, it's like a juggle struggle of how we feel and what we're doing. And then to also have your true lived experience be a disruption in your life plan and your medical care. It's just a lot, almost too much. And Nicola does private coaching and she does groups. And it's really interesting. She's doing short-term groups right now, like little 3-week groups, just because, you can get together and share your stories, help each other, support each other, get support from Nicola, make self-care plans, build some resilience and into what you're dealing with so that you can have a greater sense of well-being, a greater ease. There's no one right way to get through this, and there's no one right way to feel as our lives are being completely thrown every which way. So I hope you find this conversation helpful. As always, I love to hear from you, Rebecca at bodykindnessbook.com. And be sure to check the links in the show notes where you can find and follow Nicola. Hey, Nicola, welcome to Body Kindness.
Thank you so much for having me, Rebecca. I'm so excited to talk to you about this stuff.
Yeah, same here. We're, kind of like in the middle of a lot of, unprecedented, stressful times. I feel like, when we've been working together and on professional stuff for a while, and we would talk about weight stigma or how challenging it can be in healthcare and how to advocate for yourself and all these things. And then, nobody was expecting global pandemic, to kind of come up. And it's really changed so much, hasn't it?
It's changed everything. I mean, it's changed everything about my practice, everything about how I'm talking to my clients. And yeah, I mean, how I'm living and identifying in the world, it's just everything's up in the air right now.
Yeah. And, I think I'm really grateful that you could spend some time talking to me because I think you have such an interesting perspective. And, we've been talking, previously in the podcast about anxiety and fears that come up and how our mind will tell us, kind of what if worrying, and that, in some ways it could be helpful, but then it could kind of turn more into panicky ways of thinking, catastrophizing, actually enhance anxiety and kind of almost prevent you from taking action in a plan. But then there's people who are, so it's like on the one hand, worrying about, will I get the medical care I need if I need it? But there's a whole other group of people who already, like literally what they're living is a disruption in their medical care, whether it was a surgery or fertility treatments, which I know is your area of expertise. It's not just a fear of a disruption, it's an actual disruption. And my hope is that through our conversation today, we can really help people who are dealing with, uncontrollable situations and maybe help them find a little peace and comfort and kindness as they navigate that territory.
Because it's just like, I mean, we've never been in this situation before. So there are so many unknowns that people are having to deal with right now. And that in itself is scary. And I think people, are just really struggling with the difficulties they're facing, but in face of this huge kind of worldwide difficulties, like having to navigate both those things together, while people are, struggling, and you think, okay, well, it's not as bad for me as it is for others, but still honoring those feelings of, well, it's shit for me as well. And it's okay for me to feel like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, man, if we're not feeling our feels, then we're probably doing a lot worse. So anyone who's feeling, mad and angry and frustrated and just, even tired or broken in a sense, it's like all of that would make complete sense given what we're going through right now. But so I'm really excited to talk to you. But first, because some of the listeners might be meeting you for the first time, I would love it if you could share a little bit more about who you are and what you do professionally.
Yeah, so I'm Nicola. I live in the UK and I am a fat positive fertility coach, which means that I support people in bigger bodies who want to get pregnant. And the reason that's so different from other fertility coaches is because people in bigger bodies have so many different needs in terms of when they're accessing fertility support due to things like weight stigma, weight cycling in their past, and how that's impacted their menstrual cycles. So it's incredible work, and I'm so grateful to be working with the people who I do work with to support them in getting pregnant, because they are so worthy of becoming parents. Mm-hmm. And they're told they're not. And it's really, there's a lot of work that we can do together to help them on their journey.
Yeah. You know what? I just had a thought. I actually have a client I want to refer to you for some coaching because she meets all the criteria, and even in what we're about to talk about today, she's had a disruption, and she's early in her plan, but she's had a disruption. I'm sure I'll bring her up again. So when we're done recording, remind me that I need to pass your name on to her, because I think you could provide a lot of peace and comfort and support to her. And it would be fun to get to work with you with one of my clients as well. Okay, so let me see. How do we want to get into? Well, I would love to know if there's anything personally that you want to share, or with clients, or anything at all. Like, what's kind of happening with you and COVID-19, like right now? Like, how you doing? What's going on?
So for me, I'm in a bigger body, which a lot of people have been highlighting is a high risk. So personally, I am doing well now. But initially, when I was reading all the stuff around being in a bigger body, high risk stuff, blah, 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 like logically in my brain, I know that it's all fat phobic rubbish.
Mm-hmm.
But even, that initial, like, oh my God, like, does this mean, what does this mean? Like, that initial like panic in my brain was totally still there, even though I do this stuff every single day, even though I'm reading stuff about, this in healthcare all the time. I still had that kind of fear factor, that initial like, oh my God, like, like, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to fix this kind of moment?
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to reassure anybody who's listening, who's in a bigger body, who's seen that, like, it's a really normal response to kind of like, get into that fight or flight state of like, oh my God, what the hell am I going to do about this? And what does this mean? So yeah, for me, that was my kind of natural instinct. And I reached out to a few of my friends who are also in bigger bodies, who know their stuff too, to get that support, because it's really helpful for me to talk about that stuff and just to kind of work through it and have somebody sensible say, actually, Nicola, it's a perfectly valid response, but we know that this is XYZ, we know this is just fat phobic, and we know that there's so much research now that's coming out already to support the fact that the same number of people, the same percentage of the population are getting it and, going into intensive care as there are, fat people in the country.
Mm-hmm.
It's like saying, oh my gosh, I've got brown hair, so people with brown hair are more likely to get it, when in fact, more of the population have got brown hair. Like, it's the same thing. And I just have to keep reminding myself that, it's got nothing to do with it. And it's just these same things being trotted out again and again and again. But that fear, even though I know it's false, is just still kind of, and if I don't kind of keep it in check, it still kind of rises a little bit sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things, because I counsel clients with anxiety, and who doesn't have anxiety these days, really?
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I try to help explain is that a lot of these body responses that you're feeling are signs that your body is working. So it's like, oh my gosh, my heart's beating so fast, I think I'm having a heart attack. I was like, no, that's your heart working, not your heart breaking down. And it is a normal and natural response. And to your point, if you think about it, well, let's break that down. It means that, hey, I want to live, right? That's a good thing, and also I care about getting my needs met, also a good thing. And why would it be more scary and fearful in higher weight folks? It's because if you've had any medical care at all, you have experienced weight stigma. Right? I mean, just from getting weighed at the doctor's office and getting a record of your BMI and any sort of conversation about health without asking you about your habits first is weight stigma. And the stories get worse from there. And so it's not just, some made up thought. Your mind is doing its job by taking you to then and there moments of your life. And so it's kind of reminding and helping you relive previous dangers, and it's designed to keep you safe, right? But that's why it's stronger and harder and more intense. So all your feelings for wanting to be well cared for are valid and well deserved, and the fears make sense because of past experiences. slash the articles that you're reading in a pandemic. And, you had mentioned about what's going on in the UK. I just read the other day that Reagan Chastain shared something. It was just regionally in Louisiana, that it's actually a fewer percentage of higher weight folks are being admitted to the hospitals with COVID-19 than the population. So that she's like flipping it around, that you could argue that it's actually a higher risk being at the lower BMI. I'll find it and share it in the show notes, because we all know Reagan does her homework and it's always fascinating. And but it's hard. I think it's hard to be in this time right now. And it is especially hard to make it through when you have a genuine worry about whether or not your needs are going to get met. And I mean, what kind of things do you do, like you mentioned, you were talking to your friends, or did you do for yourself, or like, was there any tool or resource or anything like that you felt helped you kind of get back into rational thinking and planning and like kind of caregiving, maybe more of a body kindness type of a mode that made you feel more calm?
Definitely. So I've been trying to be really kind of strict with myself about keeping a morning routine. So getting up at the same time in the morning, having a shower, washing my face, just really basic things. And then like before I start my work in the morning, I'm just doing some really grounding stuff, like doing a small amount of meditation, just like checking in with myself, doing some gratitude journaling, and just those like really basic things. I'm keeping them exactly the same, keeping them, that rhythm the same. And that's just really helping me ground first thing in the morning, just so I can like be aware and kind of get back in touch with my body and don't let it like spiral up. It's like bringing me down to the ground, which is being really helpful.
Let me ask you this. Do you let yourself like bitch about something stupid that you feel like you shouldn't be bitching about, but you're like, no, I'm going to bitch about this anyway because I have a right to be pissed about something? Like, I don't know, like we're out of coffee creamer, or just any little thing. Because that's happening to me on the daily. I'm like, normally I would say don't sweat the small stuff, but kind of extra ragey. I don't know.
I think, totally being like in the same house with my immediate family has been fun, 2 weeks straight, not leaving the house, or, leaving the house for half an hour, 15 minutes at a time, and all being together all at once. Like, definitely trying my patience. But I'm trying to be really gentle with myself, trying to be gentle with the kids and my husband.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, we're doing what we can, right? Like, at the end of the day, if everybody's alive, I'm calling it a win, and I am just like drawing a line under it and starting afresh the next day.
Yep. Yeah, it's really fascinating too. I am having some virtual clients pop up. You might even be surprised to know, like teenage boys, and just feeling really anxious and not knowing to do with it, and feeling like, okay, I need to go and do like a hard workout. And then the hard workout hurts even more because it's actually gentle movement that would help anxiety, not intense. And I find it really interesting just because of the cultural expectations, of be strong and powerful and don't be vulnerable. And it's just like, that it is hard for everyone. And, I think you're right that I also have like real gentle routines. Like I put in as much time for sleep as possible because I never know how much I'm going to need and how, interrupted my sleep might be. And, a little bit of yoga, meditation stuff in the morning. I try to get 1 cup of coffee before anyone else wakes up if I can. And then I think, just a real gentle set of expectations for what does it look like, to feel, I guess, kind of grounded and peaceful, that, I'm not expecting easy or uneventful. And I think, as you mentioned, gratitude, I think this idea of trying to keep my hope and confidence high, that there are so many people who are doing their job to protect us and keep us safe. And we can't control the time that it takes to allow the work that has to get done. Everyone, even the minimal news I watch, right? Things about peaks and then let the peaks fall or whatever, right? That there's this, as humans, we need to control things, and realizing that there are things you can't control. But what I can control is my schedule in the day, and this me being at home is the right place. And, just trying to find little bright spots too. It was my brother's birthday, and he's in LA area anyway. And I have family in Las Vegas and family in Ohio, and then we're in DC. And normally I think we all probably would have just a short little text, hey, happy birthday, da da da. But we ended up getting on like a Zoom and doing, happy birthday and cupcakes and happy hour and like, whoa. And I was like, isn't this interesting that now that we're more in this routine to talk as family, that we're connecting even maybe on a deeper level. So there are some sort of, I think, optimistic bubbles that come out of it too.
Yeah, I've experienced the same thing. We made a Zoom call with some of my university friends that I haven't spoken to or seen to in ages, and all of a sudden it's taken a pandemic for us to like go, okay, well maybe we can chat regularly on Zoom and catch up with each other, and that's not too difficult. But we'd never even, the thought had never crossed our minds before. So it's those little things are really beautiful, I'm finding.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, to kind of recap where we've been so far, it's this idea that, while we're going through this, there's going to be more stress, more anxiety, more worry. And it makes sense where those thoughts and feelings come from. We're sort of all on this path where we're in it together day by day. And there are absolutely going to be differences in what our experiences are. And that, on a very personal level, what is it that we can do with our time to have kind and gentle expectations of ourselves and the people who are in our houses, so that we can, it's almost like preserve our energy for resting and for feeling our feels, as we take it day by day and work our way through this. And some of the seemingly simplest things like getting your sleep or doing some gratitude journaling or some deep calming breaths and choosing not to do, all the extra, I'm at home, I should do all these organizing tasks. Like organize when you feel energy, but rest when you need rest. And these are all positive self-care things that will help you through worries. But what I really hope to focus the rest of our time on is when the worries aren't just fears based on past experience, but basically a trauma within a trauma. Like you are actually having your medical care disrupted because your surgery was canceled or, a treatment was canceled. And that's definitely happening to people for all different types of reasons. And to my knowledge, it's like, well, if it's considered non-essential, right, then things are being canceled because just for everybody's safety. And I think also diverting medical professionals to the hospitals, right, to provide care or to be with their families. Like it's not, we're trying to be assholes to you, right? It's that there's a valid reason for when people are having things canceled, but it still hurts really bad. And I know in the particular area where you have expertise has to do with fertility treatments and all the disruptions that might happen there. So I would love to just hear from you, like, what is happening with your clients? Like, what do you know is going on out there, and what's the damage? What's the problems that it's causing?
So, like all over the world, fertility treatments are being cancelled. Any kind of fertility support, whether that's IVF and IUI, whether that's just taking medications to support fertility, kind of like they're putting everything on hold. I know that in some places they're still going on with it. So I think in some US states, I know of some people who are still getting treatment, but it's very much like everything is closing down and everything is stopping. And for a lot of people, they have had their cycles cancelled like mid-cycle. So they have already been paying a lot of money for these cycles, for the drugs, for scans, for, all the prep work that goes into going into a fertility treatment. And basically they've lost that money or that time. And for people who have been in this journey, the long haul, which is the majority of people who are in the kind of fertility treatment area now, every month matters, every day matters. They have been waiting for this for their whole lives, and for this to be put on hold, although it's what we have to do to protect everybody, it's just so damaging for their mental health, because the doctors will tell well, you can't wait too long because we know that fertility declines with age. So these months, while it may not seem a lot to us, like going through, okay, well, it's just a few months to put it on hold or whatever, those few months could be critical for some people, and it may mean that they lose funding in the UK for their kind of NHS IVF cycles, or it may mean they go beyond an age threshold that their clinic has provided them. So, I mean, obviously, I'm hopeful that a lot of the clinics will be a bit more flexible around their rules, but it is, this is for the clinics to decide. There is no kind of legislation at the top that's going to tell these clinics, okay, well, you've got to, give your clients more flexibility and more less boundaries around this. And it's, for some people, they've invested their whole life savings into this and then they've lost them. So it's, this is going to be a really traumatic thing to recover from. And for people in higher weight bodies who may, be having problems accessing this treatment, they are being told that maybe they can't work with the doctors that they were originally working with, which again brings up a lot of anxiety, because they have sought out specific doctors on purpose because they are the ones that they found that are going to treat them with respect in their bodies. So there's so much to unpack around this, and so much to, just be mindful of in terms of the care that these people have received. And it's almost like it's a bereavement, really. It's a kind of grieving that they're going to have to go through, because it's not just that their cycles have been stopped, it's that they've lost that potential that, that their baby could have been born in 9 months. And it's not just the fact that it's on pause, it's that whole kind of that loss of the what could have been.
I mean, I know anyone I've worked with who was going through fertility treatments, everybody had anxiety and stress and exactly as you explained, many sacrifices. It's can feel like an uphill slog without the pandemic. And so it's like you're on a path, and it's like in your mind, it's like, but I'm doing everything and I'm following the rules, and like, where is my reward? Right. And it's like all of a sudden, just the brakes put on. And I think you're right. There were two things, it's like, it's the uncertainty of it all. It's immediate cancellations. And I know the client that I mentioned that I want to refer to you, that's exactly what happened to her. Was, an initial in-person appointment at a fertility clinic with a health at every size informed treatment professional who I've referred other clients to. And now in her case, they are going to do a telehealth appointment, and she feels okay about that, but it's not the same. And it is early for her, but I know it already instilled a lot of fear and worry, like, but I want to be a mom. And it's like, so even somebody who's taking that first step, it is very sad. It is something to grieve because of all the pain you've already experienced just to get to that point. And wherever you're at on the journey, to know that it has been stopped. You didn't cause it to stop, but you don't know when it's going to start again. And when it does start again, you don't know what the other hoops that might exist. I know you mentioned like issues with funding, the care provider, possibly triaging some certain amount of waitlisting, like who gets it first. I'm sure there's going to be a backlog, and you're just kind of like, I don't know of anyone who, and hopefully this is happening, but like, I don't know of anyone where it's been canceled and they are getting like a new reliable date so that they could be like, okay, I just have to make it to that marker. That would provide some amount of ease. But I think it's the issue of the uncertainty, like, where is my hope? Without knowing that next step, there is no hope. And then to your point, it's grieving a loss, whether it's a what if there could have been a baby this time loss, or just the loss of all the effort you've put in so far that just vanishes into nothing.
And a lot of people, when they're going through these treatments, they spend a long time preparing for them. Like they'll be, looking after their health in the best way they can, with the intention of like trying to be in the best possible place for this cycle. And then it almost feels like that's all been to waste, which I try and explain to people that it isn't. You are looking after yourself, and that is so critical and important, and it should be how you're looking after yourself the whole time. But it feels like you've put in all this effort and you've done everything right, like you said, and you've ticked all the boxes and you've done everything perfectly, and yet still there is this big thing that is completely out of your control that you can do absolutely nothing about, that has just, stopped everything in its tracks. And there feels like there's no way forward, that there's nothing you can do to move through this barrier.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like people might not necessarily identify it as grief. And even if they could get to that point, I don't know if they would give themselves permission to grieve. Like, who are you to, almost kind of like, to kind of shove off those feelings? I mean, do you find that in your clients that sometimes that they lack the permission to feel fully how they feel?
Yeah, because when it's not ever acknowledged, even with like early losses or chemical pregnancies, it's like it's often quite dismissed by healthcare professionals of, just start next month, and it's just almost like we'll just carry on, next steps, and they're not given that space to actually, really grieve that process. So it's almost like they feel like they just have to dust themselves off. It was no big deal, and they just carry on. When actually, that is a really big deal, both emotionally and physically, and it's something that we should be allowed to grieve and to work through and to process and to move past.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what are some of the things that so I know you work with people individually and you also run groups. What are some of the things that you guys are talking about? How are you helping people? What kind of problems are coming up? I'd love to know a little bit more about what your life is like with your work during this time.
So with my one-to-one clients, I've really just been supporting them in adapting to working from home, adapting to, like making decisions about their fertility and whether they do want to continue trying naturally or whether they want to put things on hold for a little while, helping them work through and process that decision, because, there's no, obviously we know that in the UK, for example, like pregnant people have been put as high risk, but there's no evidence to support the fact that this affects pregnant people worse than other people, or that there's a problem if you're pregnant. It's just super precaution. But still, you're making a decision as to, okay, are you going to go into a pregnancy knowing that the state of our medical system is struggling, and what would that mean in terms of your own maternal care? So it's still a decision that you need to make. So I'm supporting people with making those decisions. And yeah, I've kind of switched things around a little bit in my practice so I can provide some kind of group support, because when we're all so isolated, having that close connection with other people who's going through similar things to you, I think is really important. And I think it's going to provide people with a really great source of support during this time, because it's something that nobody's got the rule book on, because we've never had to navigate through something like this. So we are all just looking at ways we can help each other out in the best way we can. So I'm kind of, if on a more practical level, we're looking at routines, we're looking at ways we can kind of manage those boundaries between like work life and home life, and looking at how we make sure we get adequate rest when you're at home all the time. So looking at how you can still get those needs met whilst you're in your home environment and maybe kind of not used to what that looks like has been really important in just keeping people kind of sane.
Yes, breathing. And, it's, I mean, the basic fundamental element of body kindness is just being able to be good to yourself. And, the most basic element of self-compassion is, if I have to boil it down to simplest terms, it's just being able to say the two words, it's okay, and then it's okay, fill in the blank, right? It's okay to feel this way. It's okay to be in this exact place right now. It's okay to need other people. Folks haven't done groups before. I can tell you, as somebody who's participated in groups and who has facilitated groups, knowing you're not alone and the sense of community and the way that listening to other people's experiences teaches you more about your own is like really fascinating and so powerful. Would you agree, Nicola, that there's just something special about groups, isn't there?
There really is. And then no matter kind of what problem other people are coming with, there's always, I think, when listening to others and listening to the advice they get back, is just something so powerful in just being able to recognize yourself in that and be like, thank God I'm not the only one who's going through that, or thank God I'm not the only one who's thought that or felt that way, or, you just feel less isolated. And at a time like this, feeling less isolated is so, so valuable.
And it also helps to, and I would say this is true for one-on-one and groups as well, because there's connection across both. But Brene Brown talks about connection is why we're here, and when she says that so simply like that, it's like, yeah, it's that humans from the most basic level, I mean, we were meant to connect in groups. We're meant to want to belong. And so that's why, we're pooled, like, yes, social distancing. And the second they started saying social distancing, I instantly called it isolation. I was like, isolate, and that's, it's honestly, I don't know if it was just a mental thing, but it's how I felt, like isolated from the world. And it's a very, very uncomfortable place to be. And so I think now more than ever, I think we're learning how we really can get on virtually. And I think that's going to really impact humankind. But I think that the ways in which our needs for connection that can be met through the screen, and know that when you're, when you decide to start to work with somebody, it's, sometimes we're even embarrassed or feel ashamed to like ask for help. Like our mind, like the story we say in our mind is like, I have no needs, or now is not the right time, or I can't, or I shouldn't be so worried about this when other people are dying, and it's all this self-monitoring that keeps you truly isolated and keeps you from meeting your needs. And like we were saying in the very beginning, like the worry that your needs aren't getting met is part of the problem. And so if you stop and think and say, you know what, I am really struggling with this right now, and it's okay to struggle. But what would it feel like if I could have somebody that could listen, and how could I possibly grow, better and stronger as a result of this experience with some help and support from others? And I think that's a question we need to be asking ourselves.
Because we're so used to putting ourselves at the bottom of that list, right? We're so used to meeting everybody else's needs before our own. And I think being able to kind of own that and say, yes, I do need help. Yes, I do want support for this it's so empowering, because you are, you really are putting yourself at the top of your list, and being able to do that is, just so powerful.
So what else is going on with you and your work and in your group support for people who are dealing with fertility disruptions? Because people might be interested in participating.
Yeah, so I mean, we're starting this week because I just wanted to get it out as soon as possible. And it's going to be 3 weeks. We're going to be just taking it in short segments of time so that people can just really get involved when they need it, and they don't have to have that kind of long-term commitment, because we just don't know how the world is going to shift and what is going to happen. And we're just going to be looking at what people's needs are, immediate needs. So in terms of like questions they have around fertility and bigger bodies, but also, questions about how to, not argue with their partners all the time. But maybe they are struggling with their menstrual cycles. So many people have reported to me that their ovulation has been delayed this month and that their cycles are longer this month, which makes complete sense because, everybody's body is feeling stressed right now with everything they're reading on the news. But we're not taught enough about our own kind of menstrual cycle literacy to to read that and go, okay, yeah, that's completely normal because we're in a stressed state as a nation, as a world. So that's really interesting. And just about how to manage that and how to, really look at where we are in our cycles and what that means in terms of our menstrual health and our support and what we can be doing in the meantime. So, all the things that we can control and all the things that we can do to support ourselves while we're waiting for this unknown. And the thing about people who are going through fertility stuff, like, they are used to dealing with the unknown. They are used to the not knowing, and they have already built up resiliency to that. So I'm just trying to remind them that, this is not unfamiliar ground for you, because you never know when you're going to get pregnant, right? It's not a goal you can halfway reach. You are always in that unknown state until you get that positive pregnancy test. So you have built resilience for this. You know what this unknown place is like, and you can move through this. And it's just supporting them in every way they need it.
Yeah. And, we definitely have a lot of needs these days. And you also have a book. Let's talk about your book for a little bit, because I love it. I have a copy.
Oh, thank you. I self-published it last year now, and it's called Fat and Fertile. And I wrote it because I could not find any fertility books that didn't say in them somewhere, you need to just lose weight if you're in a bigger body. So I wanted to create a resource for people who were in bigger bodies that wanted to get pregnant but had tried so many diets and they didn't work for them, surprise, surprise, and they needed something else, rather than just reading time and time again that it's their weight that's the problem when they want to get pregnant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that could be, they can get it on Amazon or whatnot. And
so I self-published it on Amazon. So kind of anywhere that you can grab Amazon, it's available.
Cool. And where else can people find and follow you if they wanted to connect with you and maybe research your group support or one-on-one support services? How can they connect?
So I'm most active on Instagram. My handle is Fat Positive Fertility. And I also have a free Facebook group, which people are welcome to come and join, which is called Fat and Fertile.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking with me today. It's been fun chatting, and I think just really holding some space for that feeling of, this sucks really bad, because, I like we said, I have a right to my grief and my pain and my frustrations, because I've been working on these plans and they've been so disruptive. And, hopefully people will find some peace of mind from our conversations, and we'll work on their self-care plans. And, if needed, reach out to you for some support throughout this.
Yeah. And I think just being gentle with yourself above everything else is just, big breaths.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I always want to have this profound confidence, like, this too shall pass, or I'd love to give it a date. And it's funny because I can't, right? Like, A, I don't know, but B, it's like, so it's interesting even in watching my own mind, right? You're the helping professional. It's your job to calm people down. And so what could you do to reassure them? And then the other part of me is going like, nothing, absolutely nothing. Cause what do you know, Rebecca? You're just, like, so I don't know. I guess for my own well-being, I try to gently tell myself, there are smart people who are doing their job, and your job is to stay inside and help your people get through it. But yeah, I just think with as much optimism as we can all muster, that this is going to forever change us. And there is such a thing as post-traumatic growth. And I 100% believe that we will all be different. Our lives will be different as a result of this. And, how we can acknowledge the vast amount of pain and suffering going on in the world and hope for healing for that. And at the same time, whatever we're feeling on a given day, whether it's, I feel so distraught, I don't know when I'll have my baby, or shit, we're out of coffee creamer. The gamut of emotions are all real and valid and worthy of feeling. And that, it is, I don't think it's ever a bad thing. Don't wait till you're rock bottom to say, I think I might need to talk to somebody who might understand and can hear how I'm feeling. I think that'll be the beginnings of your spiral ups and your pivot on your path to just a more stable well-being as you work your way through this. So I wish you all the luck with your groups and your privates, because I know you have such a calm and gentle way of helping people, and I know they really need it right now.
Thank you.
And that's our show. The podcast is made possible with support from listeners. Please donate to help offset production costs at gofundme.com/bodykindness. And please rate and review the show when you have a moment. It really matters. Let's keep the conversations going on Facebook. Search Body Kindness and request to join the group for Body Kindness readers and listeners. Have a question for us to answer on a future episode? Visit bodykindnessbook.com/question. Body Kindness books and audiobooks are available wherever books are sold. To request a signed print copy, visit bodykindnessbook.com/order. For other questions about this podcast, please email info@bodykindnessbook.com.